In this video, we're going to be learning React Native. We'll learn all the essentials you need to know in order to build React Native apps. You'll learn things like navigation, push notifications, how to create different screens. You'll know all the essentials that you need to know in order to build React Native apps. And by the end of this video, you'll have built a fully functioning React Native app. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is, you probably already have this, but you need to make sure you have Node installed on your computer. So this is a link to Node. You would just go to nodejs.org/en/download. Make sure you have that downloaded. All right, so the first place you'll want to go is to reactnative.dev. Go to their documentation. To the left here, there's something called environment setup. This is where you set up your React Native environment. The first thing they tell you to do is to install Expo. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new terminal and paste that code into the terminal. Okay, and so here's a good example. That didn't actually work for mine. You might have to write the word sudo in front of it. So if the install doesn't work, write sudo in front of it. And then you'll have to put in your administrative password, your computer's password, to force your computer to install it. I believe this word might be different on a Windows computer. I'm using a Mac. But whatever your word for sudo is to force your computer to install something, that's what you'll need to put in front of it if it doesn't work the first time. Okay, and once that's done, the next step is to create your React Native app. The way you do that is you paste Expo init into your terminal wherever you would like to create your React Native app. So I'm going to go to my documents folder. So you can type in ls into your terminal to see where you're at. You can type cd, then wherever you want to go. I want to go to my documents folder. All right, so whenever you get to wherever you want your app to go in your terminal, you can go ahead and just type Expo init and then name your app. So I'm going to say Expo init React Native tutorial. Okay, click enter. This is going to create your React Native app. It's going to give you some options. There's two different types of Expo apps. There's managed workflow apps and then bare workflow apps. For now, I would just go ahead and select the top one. This is a managed workflow app. It says a minimal app as clean as an empty canvas. So just go ahead and choose that option. All right, and once that's done, you'll just want to cd into it. So I'm going to cd into that file. And if you type ls, it shows everything that was created in there. I'm going to go ahead and open this up in Visual Studio. So I'm going to type code dot to open it up in Visual Studio. You could also just open up Visual Studio and go here to open and find that folder that you just created, the React Native tutorial folder. Click open. Okay, and so this is what your app should look like. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and organize my app, and I'll show you how I do it. I'll create a source folder that I keep everything in. Inside of my source folder, this is how I personally organize my apps. I'll have something called app state. This is where I want to keep all of my state, anything I want to save globally that I want to have access to globally, I'll save inside of this app state folder. And I'll go ahead and create an app state.js file inside of that app state. The other folder I want inside of the source folder, if I can get to it, there we go. The other folder I want is what I call app navigation. And I'll explain this stuff a little bit more later, but inside of app navigation, I'll create an app navigation.js file. This is where I'm going to keep my navigation, which I'll show this a little bit more later, but React Native has a navigation system that allows you to switch between screens, sort of like in React, you would switch between pages. In React Native, you switch between screens. This is where I like to keep my my navigation. I like to keep it separate. Also, in the source file, source folder, I'll create a new folder called screens. And this is where I want to keep all of my screens, which are kind of like pages if you're used to React. So within the screens, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it home. This is where I'm going to keep my home screen. Within home, I'll create a home.js file. Also in screens, I'll create, I'll just call it screen 2. Within there, create a screen2.js file. And I'll also create screen 3. Screen 3, just so we have a few screens to work with. Oops. To put a JS at the end of that. Let me see here. Gonna rename that. Okay, so there we go. We have a basic structure app. Okay, this is how I will organize my apps. In my app.js page, I'm going to go ahead and import in app state. Go down to source, state. And within the return, all I do is I return app state. We're going to be using hooks throughout this video. So you'll want to make sure where it says import React, you put a comma, curly braces. You'll want to use state. This allows you to use state inside of a hook function, and also use effect. This is like component did mount. If you're used to React, this is how you would, it's basically component did mount for hooks. The other thing I like to put in the app.js file is the push notification system. Push notifications are those little messages that pop up on your screen. It's probably one of the most valuable parts of having an app on a phone is you have that direct access to your users. So this is where Native Notify comes in. If you haven't created a Native Notify account, now would be the time. You'll want to go to nativenotify.com and sign up. It's free to sign up. There's no credit card required. So you can just go ahead and sign up. After you sign up, it should take you to a page like this. Your first step is to create an app. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and name it React Native Tutorial. And we'll just follow the instructions together to get Native Notify working in your app. So just copy this code here, go back to your app, and in your terminal, paste that code. Okay, and step 2 is to make sure these imports are at the top of your app.js screen. So I'm going to go ahead and copy those. We don't really actually need this status bar anymore. So I'm going to paste it here. And I'll just go ahead and delete this React line here since it's already up here. Okay. The next step is to copy this code. It says to put it before your function, but after the import section. So that just means right here. So after your imports, but before your function. Go ahead and paste that code. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my word wrap. Okay, so it should look something like that. Your next step is, it just says make sure you're using a hook function. We already are. If you're not sure what a hook function is, there's a link here in the description. You can just look it up. It's reactjs.org/docs/hooks-intro. That's where you would go to learn more about hooks. It's kind of the newest way to create functions, components in React and React Native. All right, the next step, step 5, copy this code. It says to put this at the top of your app function. So we'll go ahead and do that. So it's inside of your app function for this one at the very top. Paste this. The next step is to create a use effect function. If you're not sure what this is, it's basically component did mount if you're used to React. And there's a link here if you want to learn more about what use effect is. But I'll just go ahead and copy this code and create a use effect function here. And then the last step is to copy this code, put it inside of the use effect function. The big thing here is make sure to not change your app ID or your app token, or it'll break it. It'll break your code. And once you've done that, you're actually ready to send push notifications. Now, before you actually go live on the App Store, there's one extra step in the instructions for Android apps specifically. We're not going to worry about that for this video, but there is one extra step for Android apps before you go live to get push notifications working. But push notifications will work in a development environment. And just to show that it works, we'll go ahead and do a test. So I'll go ahead and comment out this app state. Instead, I'm going to return just some text. And this gets us to one of the first major differences between React Native and React. In React, you would use things like divs. In React Native, instead of using divs, we use what are called views. And you may have noticed up here in React Native, it automatically imports a few things for you, a style sheet, text, and view. The style sheet is, we'll talk a little bit about this later, but instead of importing a CSS file, we use what's called a style sheet. And so anyway, instead of divs, we use what are called views. So I'm going to go ahead and create a view. So basically, there's a component to replace all HTML that you would use in like a normal website. They have these components that you use that will be transposed into native code, native app, iOS or Android code. So within here, I'll type in text. So like instead of H1 P tag, you would use a text tag. And I'll say test. Again, more on this later, but React Native uses inline styling. So I'm going to go ahead and put a padding top. You'll need this because on your phone, there's a status bar at the top of your phone. If you don't put a padding at the top of your screen, it will, the status bar will go over your app, your text. So I'm just going to go ahead and put padding top. And we've already imported something called constants. Constants has something that allows you to, it's called status bar height. So we'll end up putting this on the rest of our screens as well, but this will automatically give, it changes based on the phone. So it will automatically give you the padding amount you need for your device's to status bar. So it makes sure that your content isn't being covered up by the status bar. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Your next step from here is on the App Store on your phone. There's something called Expo Go. You'll want to go to your App Store and download an app called Expo Go. It's called Expo Go. So you'll want to download that app to your phone. This is what's going to be basically like your emulator or your simulator. It's where you can see what your app looks like directly on your phone. So it's pretty cool. This is what it should look like on the Apple App Store and on the Android App Store. This is what the icon looks like. So go ahead and go to your App Store on your smartphone, download Expo Go. All right, now that Expo Go is downloaded, we're ready to open up our app and see what it looks like. You may be used to typing in npm start. For Expo, you can just type in Expo start. And it will open up something like this in your browser. So the way you can see your app live is you can open up Expo Go on your phone, that app that you just downloaded. There's something that says scan. And you're going to want to scan this code right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Once you scan the code, it should open up your app and you should see that text that we just typed in, test, on your phone. Once you see the word test, we can go ahead and test out push notifications. So you want to go back to nativenotify.com, go to the top of this screen, click send a push notification. I'll just say test title, test message. Click send. Okay. All right. And then, so you should see a push notification pop up on your phone. Mine just popped up right there. Sorry, the thing is, okay, but there it is. If it doesn't pop up right away, it can take up to 30 minutes, depending on how busy Apple or Google servers are. The big thing to know here is push notifications will not work on an emulator or a simulator. It has to be on a phone. So you have to download that Expo Go app to test out push notifications. But if it doesn't pop up right away, it should pop up within 5 to 10 minutes. So don't think it's broken if it's not working. It'll eventually pop up on your phone. All right, so we have push notifications set up in our app. I'm going to go ahead and delete these and uncomment out app state. Okay, our next step will be to set up our app state. This is where we're going to house any global state that we want to use. If you're used to something like Connect or or Redux or something like that in React. This is kind of my version of that. I created it, so it's not anywhere online, but this is just what I like to do. I personally like to have app state be where I keep all my global state, and then I'll pass that down into my app navigation. I also like to keep my fonts here. And I'll just go ahead and show you how that works. The first step is to go ahead and import React. Make sure to also import use state, use effect. Okay. And here we'll go ahead and install our fonts. There's something called Expo Google Fonts. All the links are in the description below, but here's what it looks like. Expo Google Fonts, and I'm just going to use Open Sans. I'll show you how all this works in a second, but here are all the different options for like your font weights. The way to install Google Fonts is you go to this link, install this. All right, copy this, paste that into your terminal. Go ahead and install it. And so if you scroll down here, you can just copy this. Go ahead and import all of the different fonts. So these are all the different fonts. I'm not going to be using all of them. I really just want 400 regular, 600 semi-bold, and then 700 bold. I'm not really interested in the rest of them, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of those, clean this up a little bit so that it's just one line. The next thing I'm going to import is app loading. This basically, it'll show a loading circle icon on your screen while your app is loading. And that comes from expo-app-loading. I don't believe we've installed this yet, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this. So expo install expo app loading. And the last thing to import will be your navigation. This is where all your screens are going to be housed. All right, so we'll go ahead and create our app state function. The export default function app state. Okay, and the first thing we'll do is load our fonts. If you go back to this Google Fonts screen, Expo Google Fonts screen, it shows you how to do that. So you can go ahead and copy. I'll just copy this first line here since we're not going to load all the fonts. Okay, put curly braces here and then just write. You can go ahead and copy the fonts you want to import here. Okay, this gets us to our return. So the first thing you want to do is have an if statement. If fonts have not loaded, then we want to return the app loading. else we want to return our app navigation, which app navigation is where we're going to house all of our screens. Okay, so we have our fonts are going to be loaded. Next, we're going to put our global state here. So I'm going to go ahead and create just maybe a few random strings, maybe a name, set name. Add a string, maybe an age, set age. Make that a number. And maybe we'll say hometown. Make that a string as well. All right, so this is going to be the global state that we want to use for this app. I'm going to go ahead and pass those down as props in the app navigation. So name is equal to name, set name is equal to set name, and so forth. All right, so that's it for the app state. We have our global state that we want to house here. We have our fonts that'll load here. And this gets us ready to get into our app. Actually, before we go to app navigation, I just want to add one more thing. So I was thinking we could go ahead and create a contact app, a contact collection. So to do that, we'll need an array. So I'll just call that array contacts. Okay. Use state again. Make it an array. And I'll go ahead and give just some dummy data. John, let's say his age 7. Down. Jackson, Mississippi. Oops. Mississippi. That's how you spell Mississippi, folks. Okay, so let's go ahead and pass that down as well to our app navigation. Contacts, set contacts. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're officially ready to go to our app navigation, which is where we're going to add our screens. This is how we're going to be able to pass between screens. Okay, so first thing to do is I'm just going to go ahead and copy the import section, the React import section here, like we did before. And I'll go ahead and import app loading so that if it takes a while to load the page, a load icon will be on the screen. I think that's really all we need for the app navigation. I'm sorry, for the import section. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our app, our function. Sorry, function app navigation. One of the things I've started to like to do, by the way, is to, instead of using shortcuts, to actually just write out the standard code, because I've learned that if you don't write things out, you completely forget it and you're so dependent on technology. So I think it's good to learn to memorize things, not forget how to memorize things. So anyway, okay, so we're going to want to deconstruct all of these props in app navigation. So one of the ways to do that, you can either have it go a long line, like straight across, or this is something I do as well. I'll just click enter and I'll deconstruct it down so it's easier to see. And oops, sorry. I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of these, paste them here, and there I go. I said I don't copy things, and I just copied things. Anyway, cleaning this up. Why am I, what's wrong with me? Okay, there you go. And you can just delete the equals, replace them with commas. Right. And there, we have access to everything. Okay. So the next thing will be create our return function. And before we do that, actually, so I am sorry, I'm actually going to delete this app loading function. We don't need it. We're going to use this inside of our home page. But this gets us to how to create your navigation. How do you switch between screens? So to do that, we actually do need to import some extra things. So to find everything you need to know about React navigation, it's called React navigation. That's what's used to switch between screens in React Native apps. You want to go to reactnavigation.org. Again, all these links are going to be in the description below. I'm going to go ahead and click Read Docs and get started. So we're going to want to copy this npm install, paste that into your terminal, install that. While that's installing, I'm going to go back and see the next step. The next step, because we're using Expo managed workflow, we want to go ahead and install this. So copy this. Come back, paste that in, install that. While it's doing that, I'm just going to come back here. Do not worry about bare React Native projects. We're not using a bare project. We're using Expo managed workflow because Expo makes everything super simple, a lot easier than bare React Native or vanilla React Native. So don't even worry about vanilla React Native. So just to explain, if you wanted to use traditional React Native, vanilla React Native, there's all these extra steps. It's exhausting. Okay, so Don't worry about it. Just stay in Expo. We're in Expo Managed Workflow. All right, once that's installed, let's go back here and see what we need to import. So we need to import this navigation container. Okay. Let's go to the next page. Okay, the next thing we're going to need is this native stack. So we're going to copy this npm install, paste that here. Okay, once that's installed, we'll go back to the documentation. The next thing we need is this create native stack navigator. So we'll go ahead and copy this import here. Go back to our app, import that there. All right, so we're ready to start building our navigation. The first thing we'll need to do is you can go back to the documentation, copy this stack. It's called stack, const stack, and that's where we're going to use this create native stack navigator. Just go ahead and paste that there. Go back to the documentation. The next thing you'll need is this navigation container. So this whole thing here, this is the basic structure of navigation. I'll show you how it works. Just go ahead and copy that whole thing. Okay, and we'll come back into our app navigation. We'll create a return. Paste that inside of the return. Okay, so all of our screens are going to go inside of this stack navigator. Okay, so they've already got the home screen created for us. We're going to create a screen 2 and a screen 3. And before we do that, we need to import those screens. So I'm going to go ahead and import home screen. I'm just going to call it home. Go down to screens. All right, there's home. I'm going to also bring in screen 2. Screen 3. All right, now that we're here and we know what we're building, which is a contact list. I was kind of just making this up as I go along, but I think we'll go ahead and create a contact list. I'm going to go back and rename these something more descriptive instead of screen 2 and screen 3. So let's go ahead and go back to our screens. I'm going to rename this create contact. And I'm going to call this the create contact page. So we're going to be need to create contacts. Okay, and I'll go ahead and go back to app navigation. I'm going to change. Oh, and I needed to go one more level down. Okay, here we go. I'm going to change this to create contact page. And I need to go one more level down to the actual file. Okay, and how about a detailed contact page? So we'll change this screen 3. We'll name it to contact details. Contact details. I'd go here and rename that to contact details. All right. Go back to app navigation. I'll change that to contact details. I need to go one more level down in my import. All right, there we go. So now we'll go ahead and do this. I'll change this to contact, or sorry, create contact. And the component used for this screen will be create contact. And contact details. Let us see the details of the contact. And the component contact details. Okay. One of the things I like to go ahead and do before we move on is in each of these screens, you can have a, well, sorry, before I do that, I shouldn't have done it this way because we're going to need to pass in props. So actually, you need to do it this way. So it should not be a self-closing, if you want to call it a div, I don't know, element. You need to be able to open it up like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of them. We need to do it this way if we're going to pass in props, which we are, because our props are going to go here in the middle. We'll just go ahead and create that. This is how you pass props down into your screens. Okay. And in order for this to work, we're actually changing this. So the way I just showed you with this component equals home screen, this would work if you're not passing any props down. If you're going to pass props down, you have to design this a little bit differently than the original documentation. So you actually don't need the component to be here anymore. The component now goes down here, and ours is called home. And this allows you to go ahead and pass down any props that you want to pass down. So the first way to pass down a prop would be, you need to do this funny looking thing, curly braces right next to your component name, go ... props. Okay. And then down here, after that, you can pass in props like you would normally. So the home screen, I'm thinking, is going to contain all of the contact information. So we'll go ahead and pass down our contacts. So this will contain the contact array with all the information. Oops. Okay, and it shows we're using contacts up there. I'm thinking in the create contact page, that's where we'll use a lot of the other stuff. Yeah, so as of right now, I don't think we really need to pass down anything else, but maybe we will later. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. We need to do the same thing for all of our screens. Okay. And then we just need to change the name of the component inside of each of them. Go ahead and delete this component prop from the stack.screen. Okay. Before we move on, one last thing in this section is I want to give each screen a title. This is mainly for like your website version of your app. Expo Managed Workflow also creates a website for you. So it's not just an iOS app, an Android app. It's also creates a website. And at the top of website pages screen, at the very top where it says the title of the page, this is where you would put the title. You have to put an object inside of the options value. One of those objects is title. And I'm just going to name this home. You want to do that for all of them. Name this create contact. And maybe I'll actually go create edit contact in case we want to edit the contact instead of create it. And this one will be contact details. Okay. So inside of the create or edit the contact, we probably need everything else. So we're definitely going to need this set contacts. Oops. Because once we edit or create a contact, we'll want to add it to our contacts. And I'm just going to go back here, and this is the easiest way to do it. We will need a name, age, all this stuff, hometown. So I'll go ahead and copy that there. Okay, and then for the contact details, we'll just really need the details. So the name, age, and hometown of the selected item. The last thing I wanted to show regarding navigation is for Expo Web, for websites, how you create parameters. So how do you give a parameter, a permalink to your page, maybe like your website.com/create-contact, contact details, stuff like that. So this doesn't really apply to apps, but it applies to the website portion if you want your app to also be a website. In order to do that, you'll want to Expo install something called Expo linking. Oops, and I spelled install wrong. So hold on, let me delete all this. Okay, Expo install with 2 L's, Expo-linking. Okay, and then we'll want to import that. The way you want to import it is like this, say import a little star thing, forget what that's called, as linking, so that we can use everything inside of this and call it linking from Expo linking. Okay. Okay, so under your stat const, we're going to create a new one called prefix. And for this, we're going to use our linking, something inside of it called create URL. And that is a function. Within the function, just do a /. Okay, now within your app navigation, but before your return, go ahead and create a const and call it linking. I'm just going to make it an empty object for now. And then you're going to want to come to your navigation container, pass in a prop called linking. Within that, you're going to use this linking const, put that there as the value of linking. All right, so inside of this linking object, we're going to need to have a prefix value. And inside of prefix needs to be an array. And the value of array needs to be prefix, which is what you just created up here. Okay, and then the next value, this is where you're going to be creating your perimeters for your permalinks for your pages. You're going to create something called config. The value of config needs to be an object. Inside of that object needs to be your screens. The value of screens needs to be an object. And here is where you're going to be creating your links. So my first value will be home. And these values need to match the names that you give to your screens. Okay, so the first one is home, which matches the name here, home. And for that value, I'm not going to give it anything because this shouldn't have a it shouldn't have a parameter because it's just the home screen. And so I'll put that as nothing. My next one's going to be this create contact page. I will give that a value of create -edit -contact. So what this will look like in Expo Web for a website is your website.com/create-edit.contact. So that's how that works. Okay, and last one, contact details. Go ahead and paste that there. I'll name this contact-details. All right, so once all of this is done, your navigation is officially done. You're ready to start coding. Your environment is officially ready to start creating your different screens. One final thing before we move on is the Stack Navigator automatically creates a header for you that will put the title in the header with a back button. If you go to another screen, you click the back button to get back. If you don't want it to create the header for you, if you would like to create the header yourself, you would go to the stack.navigator, and within there, there's a prop called screen options. And within this, there's an option that says header shown, and we want to say false if you want the title to disappear and you create your own header. I normally like to turn this off because I like to create my own header. I don't like them to create it for me, but for this particular tutorial, I'm not going to worry about it. It defaults to true. We'll just go ahead and use the header, the default header. So I'll delete that. But if you want to remove the header, create your own, you need to add this here. Okay. All right. So we'll just go ahead and create a basic home screen to get moving. To do that, again, we should just copy this import React. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and create a screen that says hello. Hello world. Export default function home with a return of it's going to say hello world. In order to do that, though, we have to import a view and a text because everything has to be within these pre-built components, React Native components, or it won't show up properly in your app because it's got to transpose into the native code for you. To do that, you have to use their pre-built functions. So I'm going to go back to this app.js file to see this. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. Go back to home. This gives us the basics of what we need to build a page. I'm going to go ahead and create a view. Within that view, I'm going to add some text. Say, hello world. And we'll go ahead and create a style sheet. This is how you style things. Instead of using a CSS file, you use what's called a style sheet. And normally you add in your styling just under your function. So it keeps everything within the same component. To do that, you'll create a const called styles. And that'll be equal to style sheet.create. So you're creating a style sheet. This is a function. Inside of this function is an object with all your style values. So I'm going to go ahead and the way that you connect to this is everything's done through inline styling. So I'm going to say for our page, style is equal to styles. That's how you access this right here. I'm going to create a new style, just call it page. Or I'll call it screen. Screen makes more sense. All right. Then in here, I'm going to create this screen styling object. First thing I'm going to do for the styling is make sure I have enough padding at the top of my screen, or else the status bar is going to overlap your app. So to do that, Expo has something called constants. We actually imported that in our app.js screen. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the app.js page, copy this constants, put that at the top of the screen. And so the first thing I'll add is padding top. I'll use constants. They have something called status height. Okay, there it is, status bar height. This will automatically change it'll give you the correct padding at the top depending on what device you're using, because every device has a different sized status bar. So this will make sure that you have the correct padding at the top of your app so that the status bar doesn't cover up your app. The big thing to remember with React Native styling is that it already uses Flexbox styling. If you're not sure what Flexbox is, you should go look up Flexbox styling. It's a way to style things, and it's already turned on. So display flex is already turned on. The major difference is normally when something's display flex, it's a row by default. In React Native, it's a column by default. So everything's default to a column. So if you want to switch it to a row, you would have to go in here and say flex direction row to make it a row. If you don't do that, it's going to be defaulting to a column. So I just want to make sure the hello world is in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to use justify content, align items, and you just have to remember when you're using React Native, it's backwards. So if you're used to justify content to style it left to right, that's actually going to style it up and down. Align items or align content is going to style it left to right. So I'm going to go ahead and say align items center. Justify content center. All right. So this ought to show up on the screen, knock on wood. So when we open this app, we ought to see hello world. So let's see if it actually works. I'm going to go to type in expo start to get the app started. All right, it should open up something like this. And if you have an iOS simulator on your computer, if you're using a Mac, you can click run iOS simulator. If you're not using a Mac, you'll have to use an Android emulator. The way you do that is you download, you can see right here, it's called Android Studio. And I'll just go ahead and I'll show you real fast. So you need to go just look up Android Studio, download Android Studio if you haven't already, to create an emulator, which is going to let you see what your app looks like on a phone. You'll need to download Android Studio. If you're using a Mac, the way to get an iOS simulator is you'll have to download Xcode. So you'll have to search for Xcode on the App Store, download it, and then it has the simulator there for you. I'll just go ahead and show how to use Android Studio so that everybody can definitely use that. So once you've downloaded Android Studio, just look it up, download it, and you open it up. It should look something like this. Go to config and click on this Avd Manager, Avd Manager. It should pop up something like this. Normally it's empty. What you're going to have to do is create a virtual device. This is like your emulator. This is going to be like a phone on your computer. So go ahead and create virtual device. You can select any of these devices. I've heard sometimes it's good to use the device that's before the most recent to make sure it's less buggy sometimes. But you can use the most up-to-date one. I'm going to go ahead and just use Pixel 3a extra large. I want to create a Pixel 3a extra large phone on my computer. So click that, click next. Again, you can, I just would just go ahead and go with the first one. Click on that. You'll need to download that. All right, and once that's done in downloading, you can click finish. Okay. Then once you've downloaded one of these versions of Android, you can click next. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it called Pixel 3a XL. Click finish. And there it is. It's right there. So you'll need to open this up. The way you do this is just click play. Click the play button. All right. So once you have that, once you have a phone, then you can come back to your browser and just click this run on Android device / emulator. So I'm going to click that. It'll automatically find this for you. It'll start opening it up for you. While that's opening up, I'm going to go ahead and move this over to our coding screen. And I'll just put it to the left of the screen. I'll put it right there so that it's in sight. And you can expand this if you want. I'm going to expand it to make it a bit bigger. There we go. This could take a bit on a Mac. Usually Android emulator opens up a bit faster on Windows. So if you're using a Mac, you may want to use the iOS emulator as your emulator of choice, because the Android emulator does take a long time to load. So this is actually taking a bit too long for me. I'd rather use the iOS emulator because it runs faster. It's called a simulator. And you can look up how to do that. You just have to download Xcode onto your computer, and then the emulator will be available for you. You can look that up. I've already done that, so I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of this Android emulator, and I'm going to go ahead and open up. And I'm going to instead go ahead and open up the iOS simulator just because it's faster for this video. You may get this message in your terminal as it's opening. It might say Expo Go in your emulator is out of date. Would you like to upgrade it? Just type Y and click enter, and it'll update Expo Go on your emulator or simulator. All right, and once that update is done, it should start downloading your Expo Go app. Again, this might take a good bit, especially the first time the app opens on your emulator or your simulator. It can take some extra time, but after it's open, you'll be able to update it, and it'll update in real time. It's just the very first time you open it, it can take a good bit of time. Okay, so I got this error. First off, you'll get an error that says for your push notification system, it'll say you must use a physical device. This won't show up in production. It's just again, if for your push notification system, it'll only work on an actual phone, an actual device. So it's just a warning to let you know push notifications isn't broken. It's just not going to work on a simulator or an emulator. It has to be used on a phone. But it's saying nothing was returned. So I think what I did wrong here is, okay, I see what I did wrong. In the app navigation page, you want to go back to the app navigation page. I accidentally put these in curly braces. These should not be curly braces. This should be a return statement. So it should be in brackets, not curly braces. So I'm going to create the beginning of it. Go ahead, end of it there. I'm going to fix this for all of the screens. And as you can see, now that the simulator is actually open, it's updating in real time. So it's just that first open that takes a while. All right, so sorry about that. If you put curly braces in like I did in app navigation, that was wrong. It should be braces. All right, and let's make sure that I did that for everything. All right, so it should work now. And there we go. There's our screen. There's our home screen. Hello world. Now we have an error here. Let's look at what the error says. Okay, so it says linking requires a build time scheme, setting scheme. Okay, so what this is saying is for the linking that we added here, there needs to be a scheme for how your pages are accessed, either by apps or by websites. They explain more at this link here. It says learn more at this link. So let's just go ahead and go here. That's one of the great things about Expo too. They're pretty good about their error messages. So let's just go ahead and go to this link. All right. And we're looking for something that would go inside of an app.json file. Okay, here we go. So basically, we just need to copy this. We need to go to our app.json file under Expo. So let's do that. Okay, and there's Expo. Just copy this here. Hopefully that will make the error go away. We shall see. Okay, and now that we added that, let's go ahead and let's restart our app just to make sure it works. So I'm going to shut off, just type Control-C to shut off the app. Go ahead and turn it back on. Expo start. Should open this up. I'm going to say run in iOS. If you're using Windows, you can run on Android. We're hoping that error goes away. All right, and it did. The linking error is gone. All right, so you can see up here, this is the default header. This is that default header I was telling you about. This is what it looks like. If you go to your app navigation, whatever title you gave it is what's going to show up here. I actually changed my mind. I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the header and create my own. I usually like to just create my own header, footer, body. I think it's easier personally. So to do that again, you would go to app navigation, type in screen options equals, there needs to be an option, an object in here. And we're going to type in header shown false, and that should make the header go away. All right, there it goes. All right, so let's go ahead and start building our contact form. One of the first things to notice here is you'll notice Hello World is up at the top here. Even though we gave it align item center, justify content center, you would think it would be here. But the reason is it doesn't have a height. And I'll explain how this works a little bit. So in React Native, there's something called flex. And I'll just go ahead and type that. Flex is a way to dynamically have a height and a width. And there you go. As you see, it moved it to the center there. So the way that flex works is think of flex as like a dynamic way to create height and width. There's always going to be 100% flex. But here, let me create some things to give you an example. Okay, I'm going to create 3 different text here. It's easier to show to explain. It's hard to explain. So I'm going to say styles.text1. I'll just do styles. I'll actually just do styles.text. So say I had 3 different containers. I wanted them each to take up 1/3 of the area. So I want each of these texts to take up 1/3 of the screen. Well, the way I would do this is I would give each of them flex 1. Okay, and I'm gonna give a better view, I'll give it a background color of red or something. Okay. And to make it more clear, let's give it a border so you can see. So the first thing you need to do to give it a border is give it a border width. I'll just say a 4 so you can really see it. All right, so how this is working is this top layer here, the screen layer, is flex 1. What you're saying is you want this to take up 100% of the screen. These other texts, they each also have flex 1, but that's within the screen. So what this means is if you added up each flex, there would be 3 of them, 3 within the main one. And what you're saying is you want each of these items to take up a third of the screen. And if you wanted to expand it to the width, let's go ahead and do that. You would need to give these individual items a width. You don't have to give the wrapper a width, but each item inside of the screen would need a width. So we'll just go ahead and give each of them a width. Okay, so as you can see, now each of these items are taking up a third. Now, if I go ahead and add a 4th, instead of it being a third of the screen, it'll just be a 4th. So there you go. That's how it works. Add a 5th, takes up a 5th. Okay, so that's kind of a unique thing with React Native. That's how Flex works, and it's dynamic, so it works with any device. So it helps with all the different kinds of devices there are. You can use Flex to easily and dynamically style your containers within the phone. All right, and I'll go ahead and take out this styling for the text. And just to make sure that we're importing contacts correctly. All right, and now remember our contacts is an array with currently there's 1 value in it. Let's just go ahead and make sure that we imported this correctly. To show an array, you need to use a map function. So first put in curly braces to show that we're gonna start using some JavaScript. Go contacts.map, and you want to have an E for the element, I for index of that element within the array. Going to do an arrow function here. And now I'm just going to return for this first one. We'll go just text, and I'll say that's a bug. It shouldn't do that. It does that sometimes. Okay, and I'll just say E, which is the first. Oh, sorry, I need to use curly braces. Okay, so I'll put E, which stands for the first element inside the contacts array, dot name. Okay, so, and there we go. There's John. Okay, I'll wrap this within a view so that we can just go ahead and show everything within this element. Right. Let's see, what else do we have? We have an age and a hometown. So we'll go ahead and show that. Age, hometown. All right, there we go. There's our contact. And I'll go ahead and put right out name, age, hometown. There we go. We have the body of our contact page. Now, just to make sure that it'll show multiple contacts, let's go back to app.state and let's go ahead and add a second contact. Let's see if it shows up. Call him Tim. We'll say Panama City, Florida. All right, there we go. There's both contacts. And we'll go ahead and give this view a style. We'll call this contact. We'll call it contacts. Or we'll call it contact cont for contact container. I'll go ahead and put that here. And we'll just go ahead and give it a margin bottom. Maybe 10. Okay, which gets us to the next part about styling. So when you're doing inline styling like this, if you're just using a number, not like, well, so if you want to, instead of pixels, like margin bottom, you would say like 10 pixels or padding top 10 pixels, some whatever you would say for pixels. In React Native, you can just put the number. So when I say margin bottom 10, this is 10 pixels. It's just a shorter way of saying 10 pixels. If I put 20, moves it to 20 pixels. Okay. So in React Native, you don't have to put the pixels. You can just write the number. If you're not doing pixels, if you need to say something like center, like I did up here, you'll need to put that inside of a string. It'll need to be inside of a string or it won't work. So now we'll go ahead and put in a header, a body, and a footer. The way I like to do this is I like to have the header and the footer separate. So I'll do that within this source folder still. I'll create a new folder and I'll call it headers. And I'll also within the source create a new folder, call it footers. This allows me to have a different header for each screen. So within headers, I'll just go ahead and create, I'll call it home header.js. And within footer, I'll create home footer.js. And back in the home screen, I'll go ahead and import both of those, the header and the footer. So I'll call it import header from and go to headers, home header, and import footer from, gotta go up a couple levels, footers / home footer. Okay. At the top of the screen, I'll import the header. Bottom, I'll import the footer. And then this content here, I'll go ahead and wrap in a view that I call, I'll style it and call it body. Styles.body. I'll create a body style. Go ahead and copy and paste that in here. All right, so from here, it's usually easiest to give when you're using flex. You can give the header like 1 flex, the footer 1 flex, and then the body 8 flex. And what this would mean is the body is going to take up 80% of the screen. The header and the footer is going to take up 10% of the screen. So I'll go ahead and create a body. put it here. And I'll give it flex 8. Go ahead and move this back so we can see what's going on here. All right, and since this home page is a pretty basic function, to make things a little faster, you can just go ahead and copy all inside of home header and home footer. We'll go back and update it. So we'll call this home header. Take out the header and the footer. Don't need that. We will need this constants here. We might need everything else. So we'll go ahead and leave everything else. I'm going to change header screen to header cont for header container. Go ahead and delete this. That there. I'm going to give the header cont flex 1. And I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this out so that there can be a padding top. Go ahead and delete this styling here. Here's an instance where I want flexbox to the flex direction to be row. So I'm just going to go ahead and say flex direction row. I want to do that so that I can say justify content space between. This will make it to where the items inside of the header will spread apart. I'll actually go ahead and copy this whole thing and put that in the home footer. And go ahead and make some updates. Call it home footer. I'll change this to be footer cont for footer container. Take out this padding top. You don't need that for the footer. And just to help see what it looks like, let's just give both of these a background color. I'll give it a black background color. Do that in the header too. Okay. And just remember the objects inside of the main one, the main screen. You'll need to give it a width or it won't show up. Let's go ahead and do that. Give it a width of 100%. All right, and there you go. You see it's taken up 10%. Let's go ahead and give the footer a width of 100. I'm going to put that up here under the flex. All right, there we go. The header looks a bit bigger because it's also adding in this status bar height to the height of the header. So you may want to make the header a bit smaller. Maybe you could say flex 0.5. And you can change your body flex to 8.5. If you would like to do it that way. All right, let's clean up the body just a little bit. So since this body is within the main screen, we need to give it a width. I'm going to go ahead and give the body a width of 100%. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this styling because we don't need it anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and give a padding of 5%. Just say 5%. Okay, yep, that looks a bit better. I'll go ahead and give the header and the footer the same padding so it'll look the same. I'll just go ahead and change the background color of these to white for now, the header and the footer. And for the header, and I'll just go ahead and put in some text here so you can see this is the header. I'll say contacts. Put in some text here that says, say home for now. We'll add in a home link down here. I'll show you how to do that just a little bit. I don't really like how there's space here like this, so I'm gonna, instead of padding on all four sides, I'm gonna just say padding. I'm gonna actually completely take out the padding, and I'm gonna justify content instead of space between. I'm gonna say center because there's only going to be a home button here. I'll actually go ahead and do that for the header as well. Instead of padding left, right, I'll just make it centered. All right. All right. So instead of typing just the word home here, let's go ahead and add in an icon. What I use for React Native for icons is it's called React Native Vector Icons. So we'll go ahead and just use those, and we'll need to npm install react-native-vector-icons. Go ahead and add that in. Okay, and the way that you use this is here. We'll go to the documentation for React Native Vector Icons. Okay, and here's an example of an import. So I'm going to import an icon, and we'll import font awesome for now. But I'll show you how that works. 1 second. So let's go ahead and import the icon. From this point, you can Google the directory of icons for React Native Vector Icons. So I'm going to go ahead and Google that. React Native Vector Icons directory. Just look up React Native Vector Icons directory. You can click on that top link. This is a complete directory of all the available icons within React Native Vector Icon. And you can look up, so here's just an example. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and search home because we're looking for a home icon. Here are all the different options for home. You can pick one we like. I kind of like this ant design one. So the way I would import the ant design one is go ahead and copy ant design. Replace this font awesome with ant design. What this means is now this icon is associated with this ant design directory of icons. Okay. We'll go back to the documentation to see how to use it. So here's an example. I'll go ahead and copy this icon. I'm going to replace this home text with this icon. And then you go back to the directory and see what is it called. Okay, this is called home. So I'll just go ahead and copy home. Instead of rocket, I'll change it to home. And there we go. It's right there. And I'll change the color to black. There we go. You have an icon now. I think I want to give it a little bit of padding bottom. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Lift it up a bit. That's a bit better. Maybe 15. Maybe 20. Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. All right, we'll stick with that. So while we're here, we'll go ahead and create a link to the home page attached to this home icon. React Native does have buttons that you can import, and if you want to do that, you can do it here. Just import button. I'll just go ahead and show you how to do that. For it to work, it needs a title. And there you go. You see, that's the button. You can put an on press event here to make something happen. So we'll just add in a little alert here. Alert button press. Okay, and there we go. That's how a normal button works. This is the reason why you probably won't really use buttons very often is you can't really update it very well. You can add in another prop called color to change its color. I'll show you how that works. Change the color to red, something like that. Okay, you can see it changed the color, but that's really all you can do. You can change the title, you can change the color, and there's some other things. You can look up button in the React Native dev site. You can look up the different props available, but most of the time, instead of using button, you want to use something that's called touchable. There's these different touchable items. This is a way for you to create a button kind of from scratch. I'll use something called touchable opacity, and you can look at the documentation for React Native to see all the different touchable objects that there are. And this will allow me to turn my icon into a button. I'm gonna just wrap touchable opacity around the icon. Okay. And now my home button, as you can see, it's turned into a button. It highlights a bit whenever you click it. The way to turn this into a home navigation item, that's something that takes you home, is if you ever want to create a button that links between pages, up here, you'll want to type in navigation. You'll import navigation. And within here, you'll add an on press event. So whenever somebody presses it, you want something to happen. Go ahead and add in a function in there. And what we want to say is on press, we want it to navigate home. So the way you do that is you say navigation dot navigate, which is a function, and then just type the name of the page you want it to go to. I want it to go home, which is what we named home screen. We named it home, so we want it to go home. Okay, so let me explain a little bit further. Whenever you're using Staff Navigator, in here, you'll notice we did the ... props. One of those props that is automatically in there is this navigation prop. This is what allows you to go between screens. And the way you can access it is in each of your screens, you need to also deconstruct the navigation item, which automatically comes with these props without even having to name it. So you don't have to write navigation here equals navigation like you did with contacts equals contacts. It just comes with the navigation. So you'll want to import the navigation in your screen. And then if you want your header or your footer to have access to that navigation prop, you have to pass it down. So here in footer, I'm going to go ahead and pass down this navigation prop. And now our home footer should actually work. If we're ever on a different screen and we want to go home, we can click this button and it'll take us home. And we'll get back to that later. We'll show how that works later. All right, so I want to actually go ahead and take that touchable opacity. I'm going to import it on the home screen as well. What I want to do is instead of showing all the details of the contact, we created a contact details page. I'll have that appear there. So let's go ahead and take out age and hometown. We'll just show the user's name and make it to where they have to click on the user if they want to see the details. So instead of view being the contact container, I'm going to change that to be a touchable opacity so that we can turn this into a link and use the on-press event. With views, you can't use on-press events. They're just basically like divs without the ability to click it. So, but we want to be able to click it so that it'll go to the detail screen, the contact detail screen. Let's go ahead and style it a bit differently. We'll give it a background color of, we'll just say white for now. Okay, I'm going to give it some padding all over of 10. Okay, let's make it 15. Maybe 20. There we go. All right, and I want to give this a border radius of maybe 6. That looks a little better. Let's say 12. All right. Yeah, that looks maybe 10. Go back to 12. We'll go ahead and align items center. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe we could try giving padding 30. Back to 20. Maybe 25. All right. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. And let's go ahead and use the fonts that we imported for this text. So I'll go ahead and say style equals styles.text. We'll create a text object. And here is how you use the font families. Remember on the app state, we also imported these fonts. So we'll go ahead and import our font style, Open Sans 400 regular. Let's go back here and we'll just say font family. do that. That is how you import your fonts. I want this name to be bold. So let's go ahead and do that. Do it this way. Say we want some bold text. I'll go text style equals styles.bold text. Okay. And we'll just put name inside of this. And I'll add in bold text down here. So in order to do that, the font weights won't work. You need to import the type of text that you want to use. So if I want this to be a little bold, I'm going to go ahead and import the 600 semi-bold text. There we go. This is how you would do any sort of extra styling of text within a sentence or something like that. You would need to put a text tag inside of a text tag. So say you wanted something to be italics or underlined or something like that, you would need to put a text tag within a text tag. I'll go ahead and add some spaces here. All right. I think that looks good. Now let's go ahead and add in some box shadow around the edges. The easiest way to do that is to Google it. There's a cool tool online. We'll go ahead and Google React Native box shadow. And right here, it says React Native shadow generator. It's ethercreative.github.io. This is a cool tool that can help you to create a box shadow, and you can just scroll this up or down to see how big you would like the shadow on either Android or iOS. I liked kind of around 4, maybe a little smaller. Yeah, we'll say 4. Okay, so to do that, just copy this. And before we move on, this is how this is working. This stuff is being used in iOS. Elevation specifically is being used for Android, but it doesn't work in iOS. So you need all of this, though, for it to work in both. So I'll go ahead and take that, copy it. My contact containers, I'll go ahead and put that here. Oops. Clean that up. All right, gave us a nice little shadow here. I think I'm gonna add in a bit more padding to the body top. So to do that, I'll just add in padding top to override the 5%. I'll go ahead and just add in a number, 30. Yeah, maybe that looks a bit better. All right. Before I forget, let's go ahead and use these font families, this font family on the home header. So let's go ahead and add style just so that it looks the same. Oops, forgot to add an S there. All right. Maybe I'll change that just show what the 700 looks like. Let's change this to 700. There we go. All right, so let's go back to the home screen, and we're going to create, I'm going to go ahead and close out the home header and home footer for now. Next thing we're going to create is this contact details page. So I'll move that over. So the next thing we'll create is this contact details page. I'm going to go ahead and just copy all of the home page, paste it here, paste it into contact details, and update it. So I'll say contact details. And I'll import the same things, navigation, contacts, because we'll need that info. I'll import the header and the footer. Now, I'll go ahead and keep the same footer. We probably won't need an additional footer here, but I will create a new header because we'll need to change the name from contacts to contact details. So I'm going to go to my home header. I'll just copy paste it. I'll rename it. To contact detail header, contact details header. Okay. And I'll update it in the actual header, contact details. I'll change that to the text on that to contact details. Okay. And we'll go back to our contact details page and change what's being imported to the contact details header. Okay, but we do not want to see all the contacts. We only want to see the chosen contact. So we'll go ahead and create the functionality for that. The way we're going to do that is we need to actually pass down this set name, set age, set hometown to the home page. So we'll go to app navigation. And this set name, we'll need to pass down these functions, set name, set age, set hometown. Again, this is a hooks thing. This is how you update state in hooks is you use these. The second item in these const are functions that allow you to update the state of that state item. So we'll go ahead and pass those down into home. And then we'll go to home and we'll import, we'll deconstruct those props. So we'll deconstruct set name, set age, and set hometown. I don't think I capitalized that. Let's see. Oh, I did. Okay. Set hometown. Okay. All right. And we'll go ahead and create here. I'm going to go ahead and cover this up for now to hide the errors. We'll fix them later. All right, so we'll go ahead and create a function here. Maybe we can call it handle open for handle opening the detail screen. Okay, within here we want a parameter. We want the contact info. So I'll just call it contact info. Okay. First thing we'll want to do is set the name to contact info dot name, set the age, contact info dot age, set the hometown, contact info dot hometown. Let me just make sure I capitalize the T in town. And I did. Okay, hometown. Okay. And then finally, the last thing after we've set this info in our app state. So now everything will be saved to our app state and can be passed down to other pages. I'm going to go ahead and now just say navigation.navigate to, we want to go to contact details. That's what we named that screen. So we'll just say we want to go to contact details. Then in the contact details page, we want to make sure to import name, age, and hometown. Okay. We don't need a map function here. We can just copy this. We'll replace the map function with this. And we'll just say, instead of e.name, we can just, within here, just say name. All right. And we'll copy this 2 times and add in the age here, the hometown, right? And that should work if we pass this down to the contact details. Let's make sure we did. All right, yep, we passed down name, age, hometown. Okay, so this should work. All right, let's see what error we have here. A navigator can only contain screen group. Okay, and before I move on, if your app ever freezes in the simulator or something like that, mine just did. It doesn't always mean there's an error. You can click Control-R to refresh the app. I'm going to go ahead and do that to show you. So you click inside of it, click for a Mac, it's Command-R. For a Windows computer, it would be Control-R. It'll refresh the app. Sometimes there's just so many changes that you have to refresh it to get it working again. There's another little error here. It says each item in a list should have a key. So back at the home screen, I forgot, anytime you use a map function, you need to make sure to have a key prop at the top level of that object. Just say key equals I. This is where you can use that I, the index. That'll make that error go away. All right, so knock on wood. Let's see if our navigation works. So if I click on John, what should happen? Well, okay. So sorry. First, okay, let's go ahead and actually add in our handle open to this touchable opacity. So we'll add in an onPress function. Say equals. We do want to pass in a parameter for this. We're going to pass in our element. Well, hold on. Actually, all right. We'll create the onPress function. And we'll say handle open. within this function, we do want to pass in the element so that it can use that to set the name, age, and hometown. All right, so this should be working. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'll go ahead and make it look like this so that we can see better what's going on here. Okay. All right, so knock on wood. Let's see if this works. And there it goes. It went to our contact details screen. And let's test out our footer. Remember, we added all that functionality to our footer wherever. Oh, I exited out of it. But let's see if it worked. All right, it took us back home. Getting excited. You're starting to create, you're creating a real app now. There we go. All right, so our next step will be to add in the ability to create or edit a contact. All right, the next thing we want to do is create the create a contact screen. So add in the ability to create a contact. I'm going to go ahead and add in another touchable opacity to the top of the screen. Oh, am I okay. Within that, I'll put some text. Say create contact. I'll go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to change this to be just create contact button. Create contact button. I'm going to copy all the styling from the contact cont, and I'll just change the background. I'll change it to red. I don't really like that color, so one way to just pick random colors, you can come here and say color generator, Google color generator. I like this colors.co, coolers.co. This will generate just random colors for you. I'm gonna exit out of all this stuff. All right, so don't like any of these colors. You just click the space bar to generate new colors. Oh wait, okay. Looking for some type of red. So you can just keep on clicking space till you get a color you like. This one's okay. So, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and select this light red color. Instead of red, I'm gonna go do that. And don't know that I like it. How about this darker red? Let's try that. Yeah, don't like that either. All right, well, I guess I'll just stick with this one. Okay, let's change the style of the text to be white, a bit bolder. So let's go ahead and create style for this. Create text. Put it under this create button. Close together. Color Right. Okay, and I'm gonna make it this semi-bold color. So I'm gonna give it this semi-bold font weight. There we go. See what that looks like. All right. Let's make the font size a bit bigger. Maybe 20. Okay. I actually am gonna change the padding to be 20. See what that looks like. And let's see what 15 looks like. Okay. Go back to 20. All right. And let's give this a margin bottom. Oh, it already has one. Let's give it margin bottom, maybe 30. Okay. I still don't like the padding. Let's try 10. None of this matters, TJ. I can't help myself. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe the border radius, we could change that to 6. No, just don't worry about it. Change the border radius, maybe an 8. Maybe 6. All right, maybe 3. All right, I'm gonna try changing the border radius, maybe to an 8. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Okay. Let's go ahead and make this 40. Give it a bit more space. All right, I think that looks okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and make the padding top be 20 instead, since that's there. All right, I think that looks a bit better. Let's see. All right. All right, I think that looks okay. So what we want create contact to do, we want that to take us to the create contact page, which we haven't created yet. So hold on. All right, so what we want that to do. All right, so what we want that to do is we'll go ahead and add in an on-press event. And we'll create a new okay. And we'll just go ahead and navigate directly to the contact details page because we don't need any information to create a contact from scratch. So navigation.navigate, and we want to go to contact details. Contact details. All right. Before we go there, or sorry, and we want to go to create contact. Create contact. Okay, and we'll go ahead and copy our contact details page into create contacts. And we'll just update it. Be create contact. We'll go ahead and create a new header for the create contact page. So we can give it a different name. We'll rename this create, edit. Well, we'll change this to create contact header. Change that to create contact header. Just change the text to be create contact. Okay. Then we'll go back to our create contact page and change the header that's being imported to the one we just created, create contact header. Let's see the variables and functions we need to pass down to the create contact page. All right, so we'll go ahead and import everything. So name, set name, age, set age, hometown, oops, set hometown, contacts, set contacts. Make sure that's all right. Okay, we don't need contacts, we just need the set contacts. So I'll go ahead and take out contacts. All right, there we go. I think we're ready to start working on our create contact page. We'll make sure that that's actually working. All right, yep, it is. It took us to the create contact page. I need to update this. It's taking us to the right page. All right, we'll go ahead and start updating this screen. To get this working, we'll need an input. So we'll just want to import text input. You can go to the text input documentation on Expo's dev site. So I went ahead and imported text input. Text input should look something like this. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy this. And I'll paste that into the body. Okay. Let's go back to that page. Okay, and the value, it needs a value, so I'll just say name. And text input has a prop called placeholder. I'll give it a placeholder of full name. Let's see what that looks like. All right, there we go. So you can click inside of there to start typing. On a normal device, a keyboard will pop up, but on a computer, though, you can just use your keyboard. But inside of the app, a keyboard will pop up. All right, so let's go ahead and replace the styling with one that we create. Call it input. Let's go ahead and replace contact cont with input. See what that looks like. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe to make it look more like an input, we'll change the padding to 15. let's comment out padding, see what that looks like. Okay, put that back. Maybe 20. Let's try 20 instead. Okay, that looks good. And then border radius, maybe we could just change that to 6. Yeah, that looks a bit more like an input. 3. Let's see. I think 6 looks okay. 3. Yeah, I think 3 might look a bit better. All right, so we have one for name, and what we want to do is on change text. Since this is for the full name, we want to set the name to whatever we're typing in as the text. Let's go ahead and copy this. We're going to copy this a few times, or 2 times, one for age, one for the hometown. We'll go ahead and change this one to age and change this function to set age. Change the placeholder to age. The next one, we'll change the value to, hometown. Set value, change the function to set hometown. Right. Hometown. We'll say city, state in parentheses. So they know to put the city and the state. All right. And the last thing we'll need is some sort of button, submit button. So I'm going to go back home. I'm going to copy this touch below opacity I just created. Going to come down here, paste it there. Change this to, I'll just say button, since there's only one button. And create text is fine. Go back to our, find the styling for this create contact button. Go ahead and copy that. Also copy this create text. From here, there's text being used. So I'll go ahead and delete both of these since they're not being used in this page. I'll paste this here. Change this to button. There we go. All right. And we can just call that create contact. I'm going to add a bit of margin above this. Margin top. Say 20. Yeah, that looks okay. And maybe on this page, I'll go ahead and justify content center. See what that looks like. It's a little funny. Maybe if I took out this padding. I don't think so. I'm going to go ahead and instead, I'll just add some extra padding to the top. Yeah, I think that looks better. All right, so we just need to create a function to handle posting this to our contacts. So I'll say const handle post. And we don't need anything because we've already, we'll just get the values that we need from the app state. And within this, we'll just set contacts. And to add a value to the contacts, sort of like push, we can use a spread operator within one of these functions. So we can say previous state, so prev state. This gives us the value, the current value of contacts, all the objects within that array. And so this prev state is the current array. And then if we want to add to that array, we can put in array dot prev state. And then if we're saying we want to add to the end of the prev state, add a new object, we can just go ahead and do that. Put in an object. Just say name, age, hometown. We've already set the values for each of these in our app state using these set name, set age, set hometown. So it's going to take those values, put it in this new prop, and it'll add that to our current contacts. And then after that, we just want to use this navigation to navigate back home. Okay. Let's go ahead and add that handle post to this touchable opacity. So we'll delete that. Say handle post. Trigger that function. Don't need to pass anything. Okay, and so this should work. So we'll test it out. Let's say I'll put me TJ 32, Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was born. Let's see if this works. A little scared. There we go. It worked. You can see it's at the bottom there. All right, now what if you wanted the names to go to the front? Well, that's easy. Let's just do it this way. You would put your new object in first, and then you would do the spread operator last. So let's just make sure that that actually works. Oh, okay, so forgot to do something. So we also need to clear out the state before moving on, or it'll stay there. So we want these to be empty, but we forgot to update the state. So to fix that, you just want to clear out the state. Make sure to put, after you've set the contacts, say set name, set age, set hometown to empty strings. And that'll clear out the values after you create the contact. So let's just see. Tim, 45, Mobile, or we'll just say Daphne, Alabama. Okay, there's Tim right there. Let's go back. And this time it's empty. All right, the last two things we need to be able to do is, number one, we need to be able to edit our contacts, and number two, we need to be able to delete our contacts. But before I do that, I noticed I'm getting pretty close to the bottom of the body. I want to see what happens if I have so many contacts that it goes past the footer. And we're going to see if we need to make this scrollable. There's something called scrollable, and I'll just go ahead and teach you how to do that now. All right, I'll just create another person. Just keep saying Mobile, Alabama. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and create one more just to really give the full effect. Hello, Tennessee. Okay, so notice I can't scroll down. It's all these extra contacts are just hidden underneath the footer. I can't scroll down. In order to make something scrollable, you have to use an object called scrollable. There's an object called scrollable. So up here in my imports where it says React Native, sorry, I'm going to go to my home screen. We want to import something called scrollable. Scroll view. It should be called scroll view. Scroll view makes things scrollable. Okay. Could go ahead and copy that. And this body here, you'll want to keep this as a view. Well, just test that out. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. This body here, you'll want to keep a view because for scroll view to work, it needs a container to be stuck inside of. Just to show you what happens, say I switch this, this view to a scroll view. That's what happens. It kind of just breaks the screen. So just keep that as a normal view. But then inside of the view, go ahead and create a scroll view. I don't know why my program keeps doing that. Okay, and then cut all of your content and paste it inside of scroll view. And that should fix the problem. So we should be able to scroll now. And you can see, yes, we can scroll. And I'm going to go ahead. So all of our contacts disappeared because the app refreshed. So I'm going to go ahead and just create some more contacts to show that the scrolling feature still works. All right, there we go. So you can see it works. Now, something you might want to do, you'll notice up here, there's some padding. So we'll want to update the body styling real fast because we had this padding here before, but we don't actually want that in the container now. We actually want the padding to be in the scroll view itself, so that you don't have this weird effect here where it's not stretching the full height of the container. So to do that, we'll go ahead and add some styling to the scroll view. Something kind of weird about the scroll view is there's two different styling props in here. The first one is, let's see if it'll pop up. I think it's called style contain. Okay, there it is. Content container style. Okay, so this is basically the box that it's the content container style controls the box of the scroll view. So if you want the scroll view to stretch the full height, width, you can control the box here. And then the normal style tag controls everything inside of that box, all the content inside of the box. So so anyway, let's just go ahead and use it and see how it works. So I'll just say styles dot scroll view font or scroll view container. For styles, or just sorry, for style, I'll say scroll view content. So it's kind of easy to visualize. Right under this body tag, since it's kind of close to the body, I'll go ahead and put the scroll view cont. This would be where you want this padding. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here instead. And there should be, all right, as you can see, that that gap at the top has gone away. Okay, and if you wanted to do anything with the content inside, like say you wanted to justify the content center, align item center, stuff like that, that can be done in this additional styling tag, scroll view content. That's what you would use to style everything inside of the container. The content container style just styles the container itself. Okay, and so it can kind of be confusing. Sometimes I even still get confused by it. I'll just the big thing to remember is there's two style props inside of a scroll view. If something's not working that you think should be working in one of them, try it out in the other one, and it should be working. So just there's two that are available, and if one doesn't work, try out the other one. So I actually don't need this second style tag, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And since this is just one prop, I'm going to put it up here to clean it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay. All right, so moving on, we will create the edit your content screen. I'm going to put an edit button in the contact details screen. So let's go back to the, okay, so let's go back to the contact details screen. And I'll just copy this create contact button from the home screen. So this touchable opacity here. I'll go back to contact details. And at the bottom here, I'll paste it here. I may have already brought over the styling. Let's see. Nope, it's not there. Okay. Let me go ahead and update this text, edit, contact, and we'll get these styles, create contact button and create text. Styling from our home page so that the styling matches. All right, I'll go back to the contact details page. Put it here. Okay, there it is. And let's see. So this is probably set to, this screen is probably set to space between. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay, so I pasted this outside of the body, view. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that and put it inside of the body view. That should fix it. There we go. All right, I'm gonna update the names of these styles. I'm gonna call it edit button. And also gonna change create text to edit text, so it makes more sense. All right, I'm gonna add some margin to the top, not right up against the wording. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, I think that's fine. So let's go ahead and create. Well, first, here, I'll see what I named the edit contact page. So, let's see here. I think actually, so I originally had it to where there's a create, the create and edit contact screen is the same. Let me think about this. So we could make this be the same. To do that though, let's see. So I originally had the create and edit contact screen be the same page. We could still do that, but just so it's not confusing, I'm going to go ahead and create a separate one and call it edit contact. So in navigation, I just went ahead and copied and pasted a new page that I'm going to call edit contact. And I'll come back up here and add that here. Call it edit contact. Edit contact. So it's not so confusing. All right. And in my files, I will copy the create contact folder. Just touch it, command copy, command or control V. I will rename this. Edit contact. I'll go ahead and rename this edit contact. Change that here. Okay, and we're also going to need a new header with a new name. So I'm going to copy and paste this create contact header. I'm going to change it to edit contact header. Okay, and I will change the name of it in here. Edit contact header, and just change the text to edit contact. Okay, go ahead and exit out of that. And then in this edit contact page, I'm going to change which header I'm importing to edit contact header. Okay. And I think that about does it. All right, I think we're ready. In our contact details, we'll say navigate to the edit contact screen. All right, let's see if that worked. I'll move this back. So sometimes if you see this, there's not actually an error. You can click inside of this, click Command R or Control R to refresh the app. A lot of times it just gets overwhelmed and you need to refresh the app. And then if it's still frozen, something you can do is just completely shut down the app. So I'm going to do that. Oh, never mind. There it goes. But what I was gonna say is, if it's ever so overwhelmed, you can always shut down the app completely. Go to Expo Go on your simulator or emulator. Then you can find your project, click the project. It looks like my server shut down. So again, I'm wanting you to see all this to know sometimes it's not something wrong with your code. If things just aren't working in your simulator, a lot of times you're just doing too much. It got overwhelmed and you need to shut off your server and turn it back on. So my server shut off. So I'm gonna just say Expo start to get my server running again. All right, there we go. It's running again. And so now I'm going to click this go back. I'm going to go ahead and open it again in the Expo Go app. And let's see if those errors went away. And they did. So there was nothing wrong with my app. Sometimes if you think you did the right thing and there's still errors on your screen, don't freak out. Try refreshing your app and refreshing your server and see if that fixes it first before you spend hours trying to figure out what's wrong with your app. All right, let's see if our edit contact button is working. And it is. There we go. Notice that these are already pre-filled out for us. This is because if you'll remember, if you go back to the home screen, we created a function to where when we click on the contact, it will set the value of name, age, and hometown in our app state. So that's already set for us. So whenever we go to the edit contact page, the value of each of these text inputs are already preset to the chosen name, age, and hometown. Okay, so let's go ahead and start updating the edit contact. I'm going to change this text to edit contact. Okay, and this isn't changing, so we know there's something wrong in the navigation. So let's go back to app navigation, and I see what I did wrong. So remember, I copied and pasted the create contact page and then updated edit contact. Well, I forgot to update the actual component inside of that navigation. So let's just go ahead and do that now. I'll change this to edit contact. And this is about to break. To make this work, we'll need to also import the edit contact. I'll put it here. Edit contact. And I think I forgot to update the name of the folder too. Let me see if I did or not. Okay. All right, so I created it correctly. It looks like this create contact page is a duplicate. So I'm gonna delete it before I move on. Move to trash. All right. So I think everything is right now. So I have officially imported edit contact. You go back to the edit contact section. I updated the name of the component. In the edit contact screen, the text should say edit contact. So let's see if That's what happens. All right, there we go. It changed. It said edit contact. All right, so I realized there's something that we're missing that we need in order to get the edit contact working. What we need is we need the index of where this object is. So if you look inside of our contacts array, we need to know what's the index of the object we need to edit. So to do that, it won't be too difficult. We'll just copy one of these. Say the name. I'm going to change this to index. And say set index. And we just need to set the index whenever the contact is clicked on the home screen. So I'm going to copy this function, set index. First off, sorry, before we do that, let's go ahead and send these down as props to navigation. Okay. All right. Now we'll go to navigation. App navigation. We'll come here. We'll go ahead and deconstruct those here. All right. So now we have these available to pass down as props to our screens. I need the set index screen to be passed down to home so that we can set the index whenever we select a contact. Let's just go ahead and go back to the home screen. And we'll do the same thing we did here. We'll just start out with the set index. And the way this is working is whenever we're clicking one of these that's wrapped in a touchable opacity, it's sending that element and that index. So we need the index. We haven't used the index yet. So we're gonna need to pass in another parameter. We're gonna need to pass in the index in the handle open. So in handle open, we don't just need the contact info, we also need the index. Okay, so that's what we just passed in as our second parameter now. This will give us the index of the object in the array. We'll go ahead and put that here. Okay, so now whenever we click on these, it's going to set the index in the app state. And we will need that information in the edit screen. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this index prop, go to the edit screen. Here it is. I'm going to pass the index down to the edit contact. We'll go back to the edit contact screen. Go ahead and import that prop here. All right, so it looks like I did something wrong in the home page. It says it can't find variable set index. Let's see, did I? Okay, I forgot to import set index in the home screen. So I passed it down as a prop, but I also have to deconstruct it up here. I have to import that prop. Okay, so it should be working now. Let's try it again. Okay, click edit contact. So now in our edit contact screen, we have everything we need to go ahead and update a contact. So there's a lot of different ways you can update a specific index within an array. I went ahead and Googled it and found the best way, I think, and we'll go ahead and go to where I found. Stack Overflow is your friend. but it has answers for everything. But this is the easiest way to update a specific object within an array. So using hooks. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this code here. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to change set data to set contacts. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Don't need this. And I'm going to change, instead of datas, I'm going to change that to prev state again. And make this look kind of a bit prettier. Okay. So we already have the index of this object. So what this will do is it will, whenever this handle post is fired, it will only update the object that's in this, at this index, at the index of this object. We don't need this target value. That would be for something else. So we'll just go ahead and delete that. What we do need, though, is a new object. And within that object, we need a name, which is going to be the name we set. Age, which is going to be the age we set. And hometown, which will be the hometown we set. And remember, these are already set for us in our app state. They're being passed down here, and they're being updated down here. So by the time we click edit contact, it ought to edit it for us. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. I'm going to click on this, click edit. This should work. Let's see. I'm going to also give him a last name, Smith. All right. Oh, before I move on, let me see. Okay. Okay, wait, before we move on, I was wrong. There's one more thing we need to do. So we also need to clear the index, just how we cleared the name, age, hometown. We need to clear the index too. I want to do that before I test this out. And we'll go ahead and set that to an empty string. So I'm going to start over. Let's see. Now, once we make this update, it should clear out everything so we don't have the problem we did with the contact page. Let's see if this works. All right, that caused an error. I'm just going to make a little update. So let's try to figure out what we did wrong. Okay, I see. I think I forgot to import the set index. So hopefully this should fix it. I also need to go back to my app navigation, make sure that that is passed down, that prop is passed down to this page. All right. So hopefully that should fix it. I think the error was, it was looking for this set index function, but I had forgotten to import it. So it wasn't there. Okay, let's try this again. Knock on wood. Hopefully this will work. What is wrong? I'm going to test something out. I think maybe it is trying to go to the home screen before this has been triggered. So I'm going to test out, going to do some debugging together. See if undefined is not a function. Okay, so that was not it. All right, so to debug this, I'm going to add in. Let me make sure we have access. So to debug this, I'm going to go ahead and bring in contacts just because I want to be able to console log contacts. So I'm gonna have to go to app navigation, find here's contacts. I'm gonna go ahead and send that prop to the edit contact screen. So what I want to happen is I'm gonna use a use effect function. This will trigger once my screen is loaded. So I want to just console log my contacts to see what my contacts look like when it loads. And then I want to see what my contacts look like after I make the edit. Because based on the error message, it looks like it thinks something is undefined. All right, so let's see. Your console logs, by the way, if you use console logs, it'll show up here wherever you said expo start. Your consoles will show up there. So let's just go ahead and see. All right. So currently, this is what our contacts array looks like. I'm wanting to update this first one, this first object, to be John Smith. So let's see. So it's still currently without John Smith. Now I'm going to try clicking this button. Let's make sure it says handle post. It does. Okay. I'm going to try clicking the button and see if it changes it. So I just did. Now let's go back and see if we can see if there was a change. Okay, there was not. So let me first, I'm going to try to comment out all of this to make sure that that's not affecting anything. All right, let's go back and go back. Here, let's edit it again. And by the way, before we move on to, since we're here, you'll notice this use effects just keeps getting triggered over and over again. If you just need it to trigger one time, whenever the component loads, you can just put comma and do it, put an empty array. So that should make it to where it'll only trigger one time. So let's see if that worked. And it did. So you'll notice it's not triggering anymore. If you wanted to trigger upon an update or something like that, say whenever the name is changed, you want this use effect to be triggered again. It should fire again whenever I edit the name. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So it's triggering every time I update the name now, but we don't need it to do that. I'm just gonna put an empty array there so that it only triggers one time whenever I visit the page. Okay. Now let's just try this edit again. John Smith, edit contact. Okay, so it's still broken. It's looking like it doesn't like how I'm trying to update contacts. It seems like the home page, it's causing one of the contacts to show undefined before it's updated. So let's just go ahead and we'll update this a different way. So another way to do this would be to create a map function. So there's already an array inside of here. So we could do it this way. Prev state is the array, say dot map. And within here, we'll need both the element and the index again. And the first thing we need to check is if the index is equal, we'll do a double equal so that it could be equal to a string, because our index is actually a string. So and if you use a double equal, it can be equal to both. It can be equal to a number or a string as long as it matches. So I'm going to go ahead and say if I, which is the index of the prev state element, so the contacts element, is equal to index, our current index, then return our new object, which will be name, the current name, age, current age, hometown, current hometown. Okay. And then else return E. Return the element that's already in there. Okay. So this hopefully should work. So because a map function creates a new array. So let's see if this works. We still have our console logs in here so we can kind of see what's going on. Let's go ahead and click on it. All right, it triggered one time. Let's go ahead and see if it'll update. Okay, so it's saying it can't find prev state. Okay, the reason for that is I needed to put prev state here and do that. So that should work. Let's see if that worked. Click edit. Oops. Oh, it didn't cause an error that time. So let's go ahead and see if this worked. I'm going to go ahead and update the name. Edit. There we go. It fixed it. Okay. So as you can see, there's many ways to do things. Another thing I could have done, another way you could have done this is if you undid that, we imported our contacts array, so we could use that here instead of what we just did. It's just another way to do it. Let's go ahead and see if that works. I'm going to change this back to John. And that would work too. So, all right. So for some reason, the other way of doing it broke it. I don't know why, but this way works too. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these console logs. If you ever do come across a problem, make sure to use your console logs. That'll help you debug things. All right, so we can now edit our contacts. I'm going to try changing everything. Panama City, Florida. We'll see if it works with everything. And it did. All right, we'll create a new name just in case. We'll see if it'll update that as well. Let me make sure the bug's gone. Okay, the bug's still gone. All right. Tim McCarty. All right, let's try updating that. Try updating everything again. All right. And it worked. All right. So now we can create contacts. We can view the details screen and we can edit the contact. So the very last thing to do would be to create the ability to delete a contact. And I think I'm going to add that to the contact details screen underneath edit contact. I'll just add a new button that says delete contact. So we'll just go ahead and copy this edit contact touchable opacity button. Change the wording to delete contact. And we'll go ahead and change the color of one of these. So let's see here. So to help us find a color, we'll go back to that color generator. Go ahead and Google that color generator. Just create a palette, which I think is super cool. Helps me. All right, so blue usually goes well with red, so we'll keep going till we find a good blue color. Okay, I like this one. Go ahead and copy that. Go back. I'll keep the delete contact red, just because red kind of goes better with delete. I will change this though to delete button. I'll change instead of saying edit text, I'll just say white text because this can be used in both buttons. I'll go ahead and copy this edit button. I'll change that to delete button. And go ahead and go back up here. Okay, I misspelled delete. Okay, there we go. And I'll go back to this color. And the edit button. The edit button is the one that we want to change the background color. Okay. And maybe to match the scheme on the home page, I'll go ahead and just change the create contact button to this blue and save the red color for like danger. You're about to delete your contact. All right. I don't like this spacing, so I'm gonna remove the margin top, a lot of the margin top for the second button. Okay, this is the contact details screen. So delete button, margin top, let's switch that to maybe 20. So it looks like there must be margin bottom. Okay, there is. For this edit button, I'm going to remove the margin bottom for the edit button. All right. Yeah, that looks better. I'm going to maybe add a bit more margin top. All right. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So we'll go ahead and create our delete contact function. So we want to have a function so that we can use the alert to just verify that they actually want to delete their contact and they didn't just click the button by mistake. So I'll say handle delete. And the first thing we'll want to do is import alert. React Native has an alert function. And the way this works is you would say alert dot alert. And how this works is you can put a title in the alert. You can put a message in the alert. And it allows you to have buttons that can do things. The buttons go inside of an array. You can have up to 3 buttons. I'm just going to have 2. Well, first, I'm going to change the title to are you sure you want to delete your contact? This cannot be undone. Maybe a couple more to really let them know. No going back. All right, and so we just need an OK button and a cancel button. So the way this works is each button can have text. I'm gonna say, I'll say cancel for the first button, and then there's an on press event for each of these. And within the on press, you can add a function. I'm gonna just say console log for cancel. I'll say cancel pressed. So it doesn't really do anything. Oh, and the reason we're getting errors here is these need to be objects. So I'm going to go ahead and make this an object. So each button needs to be an object inside of the array. There's one more key you can put in here. It's called the style key. You really can just worry about this for, you can look at the documentation. There's like 2 or 3 different styles. One's for cancel, the others are default. So I'm just going to worry about style for the cancel button. And then I'll just go ahead and copy this whole thing. And make the second button be OK. I'll remove the style so that it'll just be the default button. And just so we can just go ahead and see what this looks like. I'll just go ahead and try it out. So let's click the delete button. Okay, so I forgot to update the on press event for the delete button. It's currently sending us to the edit contact page. So I'm gonna say handle delete. We'll go back. Now it should work. Are you sure you want to delete your contact? This cannot be undone. I'll click cancel. It says cancel pressed. Do it again. Okay. Okay pressed. All right. I don't really like how they're in all caps like that. So I'm going to switch this to cancel. Looks like that. So let's see. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. And I'm going to actually take out these exclamation marks. All right. And that looks okay. And really the main difference with the styling, I believe cancel just kind of boldens the text a bit. So let's just see though. We'll comment out cancel and see if the bold kind of goes away. And it did. Okay. Yeah. So that's the main difference. There's a few other styling attributes that you could add here. You can look up the documentation if you'd like to know that. All right, so this is the very last thing we need to do and we'll be done. Instead of okay pressed here, we'll need to create something kind of like what we did in the edit page, where we find the index of that particular contact and we delete it. So for this to work, we'll actually need the index in this screen as well. So let's go ahead and add an index here. Okay, and in app navigation, we'll need to send index down to the contact details screen. Okay. And with the index, we'll be able to find the contact. All right, so here we'll add in the functionality to delete the contact. To do that, we'll need a copy of the contacts array. So I'm going to go ahead and import contacts. We'll need to go to app. And also we'll need to set contacts. Set contacts. So we'll need to go back to app navigation, get both of those contacts, set contacts, add those to the contact details page as well, so we have access to them. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new copy of contacts without the without this item in it, and then I'm going to set the contact. So let's go ahead and do that. So let new contacts equal contacts, and we'll go ahead and just remove this item using a splice function. So we'll say new contacts dot splice. And the way splice works is it says starting at a particular index, which we have our index set already, delete a certain amount of items. So I'm going to just delete one. So I'm going to delete that one item at this particular index. Then I'm going to set contacts to the new contacts that's been spliced. And then we're going to navigate home, and that item should be gone. Let's see if that worked. All right, so let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm going to try to delete John. Hopefully this works. Okay, so it did work, but it did not update when we went to the screen. So here's how we can use effect. Like I was talking about, we need to tell the home screen to update again whenever the contacts change. So the way we can do that is we'll go ahead and go to the home screen, type in use effect, and we'll go ahead and create a use effect function. And what we're going to do is make sure to update this screen every time contacts changes. So whenever contacts changes in our app state, it's saying to trigger this again. So that might be enough to get this working. Let's see. Nope. Okay. So what we'll say is every time contacts is updated, set contacts to contacts. So we'll need to actually import this set contacts here. So we'll go back to app navigation, get this set contacts function, add that to home. Okay. This should work. So the way all this works is with hooks. If you update the state of something, that's what you have to do in order to update what is returned. So by using a one of these update state functions with this use state, it will cause the page to re-render. Okay, so this should fix this because we're going to be updating contacts here, which means this should re-render now. Oh, and another thing that I just realized is we need to make sure to clear out the index, name, age, hometown whenever we delete something. So let's go ahead and add those here. And in order for that to work, we'll need all of these functions. So I'll just go ahead and copy from here to here. Paste those here. Okay. We need to go back to app navigation. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and copy from here to here. And I'll paste that all here in the contact details. All right. So that should give us access to everything. Let's see if this works. And it did. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page, refresh the app, sorry. And just to explain what's happening again, why it actually worked that time, we added in this use effect function. And what we're saying is we need to update the contacts every time. Sorry. So just to explain again how this worked is I added this use effect function into the home screen. And by adding this here, an array with the word contacts inside of it, what I'm saying is anytime the contact state in app state, anytime that state is updated in any way, trigger this function, trigger set contacts, and then that will re-render the screen. So let's just see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and delete John, click OK. And there we go. It's gone. I'll go ahead and create another name. I'll create John Smith again. Okay. And there he is. All right. And I'll try to delete Tim. All right, it's working. So you officially can now create a contact, delete a contact, edit a contact, view the details of that contact. So you officially have a working contact app. I posted all the links for this video in the description below. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell icon, like this video, comment. It helps us hack the YouTube algorithms. It helps this video to show up better. It would be a big help. Also, you'll want to make sure to subscribe. We're coming out with new videos all the time now. I'm wanting to come out with a video soon on how to create a note-taking app. And in that video, we're actually going to go and publish the app to the App Store. So if you would like to learn how to create an app, publish it to the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, be sure to subscribe. We'll be coming out with that video soon. You won't want to miss it.